Hi everyone, my name is Siobhan Evans-Egan. I'm a spiritual healer, shamanic healing practitioner and psychic medium. I'm also an admin on one of the international mediumship page where I'll be sharing this video as is one of our members who was asked a question regarding her psychic and medium readings. So the question was regarding how to get specific information in your reading, such as names, important dates like birthdays, anniversaries, how they passed. So practical information. That's what this lady wants to know. So how do we do this? How do we get this? So I'm going to approach it as I can only do this from my own experiences. So everything I talk about is only from that. So for myself, I have to talk about my own journey and what worked for me, what didn't work for me. So I was one of the early starters in Ireland. The spiritual church opened up here in 2009, and we were very lucky in the sense of we had mentors traveling to Ireland from the Art of Friendly College. So I was trained in the sense of having a list of information with specific things that you would look for in a reading. Okay, specific evidence. So it could start off with description. It could start off with their job. It could be their age. It could be birthdays, anniversaries, names, how they passed. So we would work through this list in a sense. So the advantages of working through a list is that it opened my mind up to all the different possibilities of things that are actually available to us, and so much more. So it's important, I find, if I'm teaching, I actually teach this way. So I will ask you to think of, personally, if you could say, okay, how would a person recognize me? What would stand out about me? Okay, could it be the color of my hair? Could it be that I've shaved head? Some comes to eye color, you could say blue. My husband says I have gray. So what would stand out? So when you're doing a reading, it's really important to ask yourself, you personally, what would stand out for you in a description to describe someone? Okay, because what happens a lot of the times in readings when we're doing descriptions, people get lost on the image. And without fully understanding how your clairs work, which I did a short video already on my YouTube, so it's there, you can look back on it on my YouTube channel. So if you just go by the image, okay, I see a man, he's 5'6", salt and pepper hair, and they'll go, yeah, and then you might say something, they'll go, no, and then you'll drop it. But what I have learned over the years is you are not going to get description unless there is something that the communicator is wishing to communicate to you that is different about them, unique about them, that stands out to the person who's there for the reading. They will recognize them through this information, okay? So have a list, open up your list. They could have tattoos. There could be specific tattoos. Your client could have got a tattoo. Okay, they could wear specific jewelry, something, there's a description of jewelry around their neck that was given to them as a gift. They could have scars. They could have amputee, they could have a missing arm, a missing leg. They could be in a wheelchair, they could need a walking aid. So what stands out? They could be very, very tall, they could be very, very small, but it's something that stands out for you from that person. Okay, so have a list in a sense of personally list, just write it down with no blocks, no nothing. How would a person, ask yourself, if I passed in the morning and my loved one was getting a reading, how would they describe me? How could it help? Okay, what would stand out? And also ask yourself other things, what would you give? Okay, so say it comes to dates, all right? This other thing that we learned, now I was never able to do this, did not work for me, but this was something that people would have used in the past, is how to get specific dates. They would in their mind kind of use a calendar like January, February, March, and kind of feel where it stops. They could do numbers like 1, 2, 3, whatever, and they might get their dates that way. I personally couldn't do that because it meant me coming into my mind to come out of the link, so dates just come to me. So in a sense, if you say I'm seeing the number 14 and they'll go, no, I don't know what 14 is. And it's allowing yourself to work with your clairs to really feel what that is. Is it the 1st of the 4th, like the 1st of April? Is it the number of a house? Is it the length of time they were married? So it's allowing yourself, if you were given dates, what dates would you give that would be important to you, to the person that's in front of you? Okay, would it be the day you passed? If they were born, would it be the day they were born? They're the person you're reading for, or the client. So what dates would you feel are important? So what it's doing is you're opening up that awareness in your head of what you could actually receive. Okay, names. This thing Tony Stockwell always said this, and I really got this from him, was that if he didn't get, you know him for names, he's very good, but if he didn't get names, what he would do would he'd ask the person after the end of the reading, what were the names of such a person. You could also, what happens there is people use the alphabet, okay, like in their heads, A, B, C, and kind of go where it comes from. That didn't work for me. So I would just chance my arm. I sometimes get them so spot on, it actually shocks me. And then there's times I don't get one right. So sometimes what people start off with, say, I have a J name. And that's cool, that's good. So I have a J name, they'll go, yes, John, or Jane. Okay, and that's really cool. But don't get stuck on that. Don't get stuck on just staying with the J. Allow yourself to push past your boundary of John, Jason, and let that arise up. So be open to names. Anthony Morocco shared a thing when we were working together. He used to get a book like baby names and just go through names. And so you're putting them into your memory, and you're like imprinting them as such in your energetic field. But also ask yourself, what's your favorite TV show? Can you remember all their names? I'm not great with names and memories and names in my day life. Crap. But in readings, sometimes, yes, I get them, and sometimes I don't. So the advantages of the list, okay? How people have passed. Now, some people will know in the sense of, I know what suicide feels like to me. I know what that kind of feels like. I know what disease feels like in my body. But do I get specific diseases? Anthony shared another tip a while ago where he used to look like anatomy and biology and kind of look at the different diseases. And he opened up his mind that way to see what was there, like liver disease, kidney diseases, and things like that. And he can get specific stuff. I'm lazy, so I allow that to rise up. Sometimes I can go, yes, okay, I know it's breast cancer. Sometimes I feel it's in my blood. Sometimes I feel it's in my bones. So I can work that way. I know what a heart attack feels like. Well, not personally, but I can feel it. So an impact on the head, an impact in the body, a feeling not being able to talk, a feeling of something being in my throat. So it's all understanding how your clairs work also. And this is with your clairsentience, the feelings and the senses of things, of how they passed, is a big one. So now I'm going to talk about, that's the advantages, right? So the advantages are, and where people work. You could see an image of someone on a bus and you're describing someone, they're on the bus. Are they driving the bus? Are they a bus driver? Is that their job? Are they traveling? So it's have a look around when you're around in your everyday life. And what do you call, like, there's baristas, people who work with coffee. There's people who, they've all specific names for their jobs. Have a look around. Name them in yourself. What would you see? Like, you go to an airport and all the different jobs that are there and all the different things that goes on behind the scenes. Like, would you know what they are if someone brought that through to spirit? So open up your mind on your everyday awareness to kind of things like that, and that will help open up, in a sense, your, I suppose, a dictionary inside, something to use. Okay, now that's the advantages of the list part. The disadvantage is you will decide what you think is evidence in a reading, and what will happen there is you will try to control. You will hijack the reading, in a sense. You have a communicator coming forward. I want you to imagine you're dead, and imagine what information you would give to a medium to give to your loved one that they would recognize you. And I want you to imagine this conversation. Say I died and I want to talk to my son, so I'm coming through to you. So I'll go, okay, so I'll put into your awareness my funeral. Okay, so you could go off on the date, wanting to the date I passed, describe the funeral, describe whatever, and you could be missing out on the fact was he missed my funeral, and he could be carrying the guilt of not being there. And you could be standing in the reading. You're the medium, so I'm trying to give you this information. He wasn't there. He, a feeling of something being missing, and you could be sitting there going, and what date did you die? And what month is that? How old were you when you passed? And what's your name? And it means you're missing out on what I'm here to give you. So it is the advantage of opening up your awareness to different information is really important, and it's really good. But what's just as important is to surrender and allow the person coming through, the communicator, they're in charge. They know exactly what needs to be told and given to the person in front of you. So the challenge forever in your learning and mediumship reading is to be able to stand back and allow your communicator to do the reading. I'm still learning. I still take over. I'm still nosy and I'm still curious and I still get things wrong. And that's all part of the learning, and I accept that. But I will do my very, very, very best. I will ask Spirit to allow my ego head to step aside and to allow the information to come forward and to trust it. I was in a practice reading one time with a lady, and I kept seeing this dress, and lovely dress and gorgeous dress, and she liked her dress. But what I wasn't saying was she was wearing a pink dress. Okay, because I dismissed the information. I mean, just a dress. And then the lady said to me, was it a pink dress? And I was like, yes, it was pink. And she said that's what she was buried in. So be careful not to throw away things you're receiving through sensing or through images because you feel it's not evidence. So that is part of the learning. So to be able to be aware, to open up to the information that is available out there, is to open up your friend. It's inside you of what is actually available. But by asking yourself, have a list, write it down. What dates would be important? What dates? I mean, for instance, my parents' anniversary, I always get it wrong. We always have to ask, is it the 21st or 23rd? They're married 55 years. So you could be getting someone like me, Spirit, who doesn't know dates. So you have to be aware of what the communicator wants to bring forward. But do ask yourself, what dates would be important to you, and what would you kind of like to be open up to? And that's the same with names and the same with everything. But please remember to be able to stand back and surrender and allow this information to be given and not choose the evidence in which you feel is important. And because you will throw away so much, and your reader, your client could be waiting on just to be released from the guilt they're carrying, released from the pain they're carrying. And your communicator knows exactly what needs to be communicated back. So do your best. As I said, the advantages of having the list and the disadvantages of having a list is that it can close us down and just in this little box of what we feel is and what we think is evidence. But as I said, there are advantages and disadvantages. But all comes down to letting it go and allowing the communicator to come forward and for you to be a clear and present channel to allow that healing to take place. I hope this helps. Take care, guys.